Hans told us the White House is considering sending Donald Trump abroad to Davos so he'll look above it all. But whether you talk about Donald Trump at Helsinki or Donald Trump at some of his G7 meetings or at some of the NATO summits, Donald Trump going abroad is not always good for his brand. In fact, more often than not, he embarrasses himself and hurts himself politically.
In my memory, his foreign trips have not been his finest hours. He gets peeved at people. He'll be sort of pushy, get in fights that are unnecessary. I mean, even if it goes off great, what does he get out of it? He's surrounded by the world's business elite in Davos. That's not exactly the brand he wants for 2020. I guess he does get to look presidential. That didn't really work for Richard Nixon. That was his strategy in the early days of the Watergate scandal, and try to surround himself with Kissinger and others and be the foreign policy president. And the seriousness of the case began to overwhelm these efforts at stage managing. We'll see if that begins to happen next week when the trial begins in earnest, when the evidence is put forward and senators have to just listen to it. They don't get to just make speeches, and they don't even get to record it. They have to sit there. They can't look at their phones. They sit there and listen. And we'll see, after a few days of that, how that feels for the Senate.
Jonathan, as we talk about these Republican senators, Lamar Alexander did say this week, we have a constitutional duty to giving a fair trial. And if that means looking at new evidence, we should look at new evidence. He said that could mean documents, that could mean witnesses, it could mean new testimony. In other words, he's open to hearing that. On the other side of that, as Joe referenced, you had Senator Martha McSally yesterday of Arizona being asked a very straightforward question about whether she'd be open to hearing new evidence. And she said the reporter was a liberal hack and she wouldn't talk to him, and then went out and raised money on that. It seems to me the White House is counting on there being more Martha McSally's still in the Republican Party than there are Lamar Alexanders, who are at least open to the possibility of hearing from John Bolton or hearing from Lev Parnas.
Yeah, and to this point, the White House has been correct in that assumption. There are more Republicans who are willing to just take the president's side and care less about the institutions. And that's one of the running themes of the Trump administration, is how he has sort of damaged and denigrated a lot of the real institutions of Washington in this country. And the Senate here is on trial as well. It's not just Donald Trump. It's how they conduct themselves here. Is this going to be given a fair and serious hearing? Is this going to be, the words of the oath yesterday, impartial justice? Is this going to be what the Constitution demands? The president, certainly, I was told pleased with the McSally moment yesterday. For those who don't know what happened, it was a CNN reporter, congressional reporter, Manu, who's terrific, and asked a very fair and polite question.
Here's the question, just to fill in the blanks. Senator McSally, should the Senate consider new evidence as part of the impeachment trial? That was the question.
That was the question, and did it in the hallways of the Senate, which is permissible, and he did it in a polite way. She could have certainly just walked past him or declined comment. Instead, she called him a liberal hack, and yes, within hours was fundraising off of the exchange. The president, as he suggested, as we saw yesterday in the Oval Office, he is obviously very upset by the proceedings. Even if he buys into the idea that it could help him politically in the election next year, and that remains to be seen. But personally, he knows what a stain this is on his legacy. And the White House has been, to Hans's point and to what David was saying, the idea of trying to counter program both for the impeachment and then the upcoming Democratic primaries. That he doesn't want to just cede the spotlight to them. And part of their plan is to have him on the road, both rallies here at home, but also abroad. Davos is a sort of an odd fit for him. Yeah. He has been once before as president. I think there is speculation that this trip may fall apart between now and when he's supposed to depart. But they do like the idea of him on the world stage throughout all of this. In fact, next month they're considering a trip to India as well with a similar idea.
All right.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.